Welcome to the Tangle with Kyle Ridley. I hope everyone is enjoying their July so far. I am recording this in advance because if all goes as planned, I will be on a plane right now heading back to the United States because I will have been in London for a week. I'm not going to bring my microphone overseas, so let's just record this early so I don't know everything that I'm tangled in. I hope I've had a week of fun-filled adventures abroad. I hope I've gotten to experience London to the fullest. I should have seen Alanis Morissette. I should have seen a couple shows on the West End, explored the gay areas and Shoreditch and Soho and everywhere else people are recommending. But I am just hoping that by the time I record next week's episode, I will give you a full report of all the festivities I attended and the fun had. But for now, I have another fantastic guest, a hilarious guest. I have been following him for a year or two now, so I'm a newer fan, and he is heading out on his first stand-up tour. I'm speaking with Gus Heagerty. Hilarious, adorable, so funny, so cute. I think that was the first thing that caught my eye was his pretty blue eyes and brown hair and facial hair and a hairy chest on social media. Let me calm down. But he's also extremely funny, so relatable. His impressions that he does, I love every single thing that I've seen from him. Just scroll his Instagram, scroll his TikTok. He has everything. I'm just looking right now. Your friend who over dramatizes their astrology, an impression of a gay guy during Pride Month in New York City. The point of view when you suddenly have to poop during your walk. I love his Long Island mom moving through something as well. He's a joy. And he's heading all along the East Coast. Make sure to catch Gus Heagerty on his Is This the New Me tour. He's heading to my neck of the woods soon, July 14th, playing Washington, D.C. He's also going to Philadelphia, Boston, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Brooklyn. I'm sure he'll add more dates because he is in high demand and only getting bigger and bigger. I loved this conversation. Very down to earth, very sweet, very funny, very relatable. Enjoy the wonderful rising star, Mr. Gus Heagerty. Let's start with your upbringing, because you grew up on the West Coast. You were born in the San Francisco era, Marin, California?
Yeah, I was born in San Francisco, but grew up in Mill Valley, which is in Marin County.
So how would you describe your childhood? Was it a big household, siblings, supportive, fun?
Yes, definitely supportive, very fun. Not a big household. It's a very small house. My parents still live there. And it was me and my older brother and my mom and my dad. And my brother is 5 years older than me. So I, of course, worshipped him and thought he was the coolest person on the planet and wanted everything to do with him. And he mostly wanted nothing to do with me when we were younger. Now we're very close. I think he's way funnier than me. I think he's the funniest person in the family, but he's just has no interest in being a performer. And so I kind of watched him do some theater when I was young. And then I got into it in high school. But I grew up in a house that, let's see, my parents are like, would probably identify as like former hippies. Like they both kind of like did their own thing in the 60s and 70s and were like up and down the West Coast, being outside and on farms and stuff, protesting wars. And so I grew up in a very like loosey-goosey household in terms of like exploring spirituality. There was no like heavy religion in the house. My dad grew up very religious and sort of bucked against that. So it was liberal in that sense and also liberal politically. And also I grew up in a very wealthy community. So there was a lot of access to resources. It was like there was nothing rough about my childhood other than being a closeted gay boy who didn't know he was gay and was like depressed.
That's a lot of us, especially our era, the millennials and elder millennials. It's repressed and hiding and not coming out for a while. And you mentioned your brother was the funniest person you know. Were you funny as a child? Were you making people laugh? Were your parents, do you draw your humor from them as well?
Yeah, my parents are funny. My mom is a goofball for sure, but I was definitely making people laugh. So I was terrible in school and didn't understand why you had to try hard in school. And so I quickly assumed the role of class clown all across school. So like I couldn't stay in my seat and I couldn't stay in class. I got sent to the principal's office almost every day, and I'm not exaggerating. And it was because I was trying to make people laugh. So I sort of like stepped into this like clown jester role very young, but wouldn't have called it that. I was just like desperate to make everyone feel good. There was something like really revolting to me about like kids feeling pressure to like achieve well in school so they could go to college. I was just like, something's backwards about all of us being pushed really hard in this way. And that was particular to where I grew up, maybe too. That I sort of was like, I felt like rebellious and I wanted to just like show the kids that it didn't matter. So I'd like rip up tests in math class and like get sent to the principal's office. So that was like early kind of performing too. I loved attention like that. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where it started. But I wouldn't say I was that funny. I don't know what my bits were, but I don't think they were that funny.
Were the impressions starting at a young age, honing other people's personalities, or did that start later on?
Definitely like voices. And I was actually like very quiet as a kid. Like if you talk to my family members, they were like, you were very quiet. Everyone called me an old soul when I was young because I just like was stay quiet and I just watch people. So there was a lot of observation. So I wouldn't say I was like turning the impressions out, but I was soaking in a lot of information and material perhaps when I was young. But I wasn't like, "Hey guys, this is my impression of Bill Clinton," or something, you know, who was president at the time.
Yeah, and you talk about trying to make people laugh and trying to fit in, but also being quite depressed as a repressed gay kid. Did you know what elementary school that you were different or gay and liked boys? When did that click?
I didn't know I liked boys until high school. I was attracted to one of my teachers and I was like staring at certain parts of his body in certain ways. And I was like, huh, so that's where my eye keeps going. So I don't think I registered it as gay until then. I knew I was different in the sense that like I was very, very sensitive. I was like a mama's boy. If like someone else was crying in the schoolyard, I couldn't help but take that pain on, and I was so distracted and needed to go make sure that they were okay. So I knew that I was, like, more emotional and a little more sensitive than the other boys, and I knew that I was chubby and I couldn't, like, run as fast on the soccer field, like, things just weren't clicking the way they were for my friends. And so that's where, like, depression set in because it just felt like I was like, "I hate being a kid." I really didn't like being a kid. I wanted, like, so much responsibility when I was young. I would, like, give myself fake homework because I, like, wanted to be, like, writing in a binder. And not that I liked schoolwork, but it was just, like, I was always trying to, like, be somewhere that I wasn't and, like, get out of this experience. And so, yeah, pretty heavy depression set in. And again, back to, like, a very fortunate childhood with tremendous resources and sensitive parents. My parents saw it and were listening to the things I was saying, which were pretty dark in the household. And they were like, you probably should see a therapist. So I was very fortunate that at like 11 years old, I'm fucking plopped on a therapist's couch. To my resistance, I did not want to do that. They told me it was for my bedwetting because I was wetting the bed, probably from anxiety every night. And wow, I'm just really sharing it all. So then I went to the therapist and they prescribed me an antidepressant at 11, and I was diagnosed with like depression and anxiety. But they told me it was a pill for bedwetting so that I would not feel shame about, having depression at 11. So thank God for that therapist because it really helped. And I started to like turn some corners.
Yeah, that was actually in my notes. Starting therapy at 11 years old. I guess it's pretty cutting edge, especially for our generation and your parents to put you in that, to see you were struggling. And were they also in therapy and just wanted to pass it along to you?
They definitely, I don't know if they were at the time, like they're boomers, but they like had done therapy, but they weren't like the way our generation is, where they're like, and we go every week and like, and we have a couples counselor, but they had experience, which is why they knew of it as a resource. And they also had like community. They had friends who were like school counselors. My mom was an art teacher in school. So like she knew about resources for kids when they start to fall apart the way I was.
And does therapy go throughout all of your schooling? Do you remain from 11 on, and are you still in it today?
Yes, and yes, I kept going at their behest for a while. Then I stopped somewhere, and then when I realized I was gay and I couldn't say those words out loud without like getting really scared and starting to cry, I asked for the first time, I think at like 16, I said, "Mom, I need to go back to therapy." And she was like, "Okay, why? What's going on?" And I was like, "It's personal." And she was like, she knew right away. She was like, "T, he's gay." But I went back in high school and then yeah, I pretty much on and off have had it probably ever since when I could afford it. Some days sometimes I couldn't and I would just go raw and it's rough. but I've had a wonderful therapist now, I think for 7 years, which is the longest I've ever had one.
So when you go back at 16 because you're struggling and want to discover yourself and come out, what was that process like? I assume you discuss it with your therapist and maybe they help you phrase it. And was it like a joint session where you told your mom and dad, or was it at home and they were basically like, we know?
The latter. Because I'm a drama queen and I'm a Leo, I chose my 18th birthday. I was like, guys, I have something to tell you. And I sat them down in the kitchen. This is after I had had therapy and I was like comfortable saying it. And I was like, I spilled it like it was going to be this big moment. And they were like, yeah, we kind of figured that like when you went into therapy, that's what this was about, which was really sweet. And my dad said one of the most beautiful things, which I'm comfortable sharing because I think it expresses how incredible he is. He was like teary eyed. They were crying, which I'm very blessed. Again, I get it. I have so many friends whose parents had no reaction like this. But my dad said something really beautiful. He was teary and he said, I'm just so excited. And I was like, what? He's like, because I just don't know what it's like to live as a gay man on this planet. And I'm so excited. And I hope you'll share with me what the experience is like, because it's just one that I've not had. And so I'm so curious. And I hope you'll be open to sharing. And so, like, cut to like, I'm like home from college and we like go on hikes together. And he's like, so how do you decide who? And I'm like, who bottoms? And he's like, yeah. And it was really sweet.
So sweet. Yeah. Curiosity. I think we need more of that.
Yeah.
And how about the brother?
Brother was like, fucking time. No, no, I'm kidding. My brother was great. He also was like, yeah, honey, not surprising. I think was his reaction. I think I was probably pretty nervous with him just because he is straight and I just desperately wanted his approval my whole life. So, like, anything that could have gotten in the way of that was dangerous. But he was so sweet and did not care and supportive. I remember where I was when I told him. It was in the bedroom that was his bedroom that then I took over, that kind of energy. Very cute.
I talked to a lot of people our age about role models and representation that we had, and it was pretty minimal in the 90s and early 2000s. Did you have any, North Stars as far as who you were wanting to be or hoping to be when you grew up?
No, I mean, that goes back to your question of like what happened in therapy that made me acclimate to it. I think that was a lot of the issue is like as liberal and cool as my parents were, they like did not have any gay friends, unfortunately, and like no black friends and no people of color in our world because it was like a very white community. So like there were some blind spots to my exposure as a young kid. So I didn't have a lot of encounters with gay men. Like I didn't know there weren't like friends that were coming over to our house and it's like, oh, Roger's gay. Like I can be like him. So I had no examples beyond like the bird cage probably, but like I don't even know if I had registered what that was. But like maybe that Mrs. Doubtfire, like Robin Williams looms hard in my childhood, and like he was definitely like playing with gender and femininity and expressing different parts that felt very powerful. But no, I didn't have role models. Like you said, it was very different for us growing up. Like to be out and gay, if you were, it was like you were a laughing stock. Like Will and Grace was very progressive, but like that's a comedy show where like homosexuality is kind of the butt of the joke in some ways. I have not watched that show in full, so that's probably not a fair assessment at all. But so I think there was in therapy, it was a lot about like, I didn't have a fantasy. I had a fantasy as what I envisioned if I was straight, because like that's what you're culturized to do is like build a fantasy in your head of what that looks like. And part of what was so startling, and I imagine is for many gay men or queer people, is that the fantasies like erodes and reality sets in. And I don't have images of like, well, what does it look like if you live with a guy? Like, is that possible? And so with that therapist at the time, it was kind of like rebuilding my own new fantasy that like you can have some of those same feelings that you were hoping for around like security in a home and love in your life. It's just not going to look the same way as what you were envisioning. It might not be like a golden retriever and like a blonde haired woman.
Exactly. And you find yourself having a crush on your teacher. Did you find yourself having crushes on any celebrities at that age? I always like to ask former past celebrity crushes and current.
Yeah, well, you tell me yours though too after I share mine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, one of my very early ones that I wouldn't have even registered I had a crush, but now when I watch the film, I'm like, oh my God, this was seminal for me. And it says a lot about who I'm attracted to because it's still true today. Steve Martin in the 1989 film Parenthood. He plays a dad, and he specifically is the coach of the baseball team, which was like a very erotic archetype for me growing up, was like baseball coaches and like dads stepping into that role while I was playing baseball and like kind of being bad at it. So that one was huge. And like he was just like so sensitive and warm to his kid, but also like so hot. So that was a big one. I watched Baywatch with my brother and pretended to think Pam Anderson was hot, but really I was watching David Hasselhoff the entire time. So that's like a big part. Who else was happening? Sean Connery in the James Bond movies, Pierce Brosnan in the James Bond movies. So daddies. It's all daddies.
Exactly.
And that
I
hasn't
agree.
and that
No,
hasn't
same for
changed.
me.
Really? Who are yours?
Uh, well, Pierce Brosnan was one I think specifically in Mrs. Doubtfire with the pool
Oh,
scene.
so hot. The
Yeah,
pool
yeah,
scene?
yeah. The pool scene where he has the hairy chest, and yeah, yeah. Tom Selleck was one for me. I liked Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire. I
Mhm.
remember that. And then currently I really like, I always say Paul Mescal, I say John Hamm, Francois Arnault from Heated Rivalry I love. But I like a rugged, scruffy, hairy guy. I mean, I like your look. I think that's probably why I probably stayed on the TikTok, because like you're a handsome, like scruffy, hairy guy, which I also know that you have learned to embrace like hairy, and you mentioned being overweight as a child, but like now you've learned to embrace huskier guys, as you say. When did that click?
Yeah. I mean, part of the wonderful thing about being a queer person is like desire is so expansive and such a huge spectrum. And I think we're still widening what we're capable of and like what is appropriate to be attracted to. And I had a lot of shame when I was younger about being attracted to older men because, of course, my peers were like, "So who do you have a crush on?" And I couldn't be like, the Spanish teacher or like your dad. I actually really want to get in a room with your dad alone and see what happens. And so there was a lot of shame early on. And then I think as I got older and I got more exposure to different communities, I was like, oh, there's a whole tribe of people who love daddies. Like that's just a thing that people like. Oh, and you can specifically like white briefs on a daddy. Like what I love about our community is they like find that niche thing that makes you tick, and they're like, "Yeah, honey, there's a room for that," or like, "There's people for you here." So I think it took time, but like as soon as I saw that there were other people that had those same inklings, I was like, "Well, then let's go. Let me name everything that turned me on about it because it's very specific." And I don't know what it is. I mean, my boyfriend is a bigger guy. Like, I've always loved bigger guys, huskier guys. I want them to be bigger than me. And that's just my thing. And I don't know, I can't control it. And it hasn't really changed much except the guys just have gotten older as I've gotten older. So we'll see where it goes. I don't know if it flips and suddenly I'll be like, oh, younger guys are so hot. But like, I've just never had an eye for anyone like my age or younger. It's just like never registered.
Who are your current celebrity crushes?
Oh God. I have so many, I think. Okay, where do we start? These are not in order. John Hamm is very sexy. There's some photo shoots of John Hamm where I'm like, oh my God. Is it David Harbour from Stranger Things, that actor?
Yes.
Good God. You can call me, honey, if you ever want to explore. Steve Carell in whatever era this is now. Oh, who's the other one? Oh, Nick Offerman is so sexy.
Okay. Yes, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, you kinda see the type. I mean, there's a lot. I'm gonna get embarrassed, though, if they, like, hear this.
Murray Bartlett, another one.
Murray Bartlett's beautiful. There's so many beautiful men. We're so lucky
So
to
many
live
beautiful,
in the
hairy, scruffy
age.
dads.
Yeah.
And so when you do come out, you're a teen, so it's probably a few years after the dawn of the internet, which is when I came out. Is that what you dive into immediately to start exploring, or are you going out in person trying to meet people? How are you finding community?
Hmm. When I came out, Facebook had just opened up from being where you have to have a college email. Actually, it was still when you had to have a college email to be on Facebook. And so social media, like that world was very small. I knew about Craigslist and like that you could make Craigslist kind of dirty. I've never been attracted to anonymous sex. Like that doesn't turn me on. It can turn other people on, but like I need the story. I need to like I'm a Cancer moon, like I love a connection. And so mine was mostly like in person. Like I love dancing. And so like going to a dance club and dancing with someone and connecting that way and then something happening from there was mostly, I think, when I was younger. how I did it if I wasn't fully going after teachers, which I started to do when I was legally allowed to do that. And I was like, let's go. I'm just going to go for the thing I want. And I got it.
Uh,
What did you do?
I didn't really build community until my late 30s when I got divorced because I was always like a relationship guy, and the guys that I ended up in long term stuff weren't in the scene and sort of felt outside of the whole community. But when I got divorced, I made it a point to put myself out there and make friends because most of my friends were women and they're having children and getting married and never seeing each other. So I
Yeah.
wanted to like be able to grow old and travel with other guys. So I've really been focused on that in the last few years. But when I first came out, it was the internet. It was those AOL chat rooms or Yahoo chat rooms, and I did do Craigslist as well. That was back in the day. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was a bit easier than prior to our generation, but I'm hoping it's a lot easier for people now. But almost like it's now, it's so saturated. It's like you can just find whenever, wherever, and we might be missing that connection now.
I think so. I mean, I'm experiencing I can only speak to my experience, but I feel like frozen. I mean, there's so many options and I can have all the apps if I want. And I'm like, but let's see how much I'm actually meeting these people. Very little, because I think it's similar to like the Instagram kind of like dopamine rush of like you share pictures with someone, you get turned on a chat, and then you're kind of like, okay, and now I'm shopping on Amazon. You're like, wait, how did I? It's all blurred together. So there feels like this thing that's gotten lost of like something sacred about like intentionally going to a dance club and thinking about how you're presenting yourself and being nervous and having to be clunky and like have a pickup line. Like there isn't this presumed thing that there is now, which is like, well, we all know why we're here, which should make it easier, obviously, and it's safer because like you know why the person's here. But I think that kind of grit that we had to go through of like putting yourself out there helped a lot. Like it charged the situation and it also made it special and it also strengthened social skills. So I don't know if I think I'm seeing, I mean, it's just the algorithm feeding it, but I'm seeing more and more conversation about cruising coming back and like our generation teaching the younger generation what cruising is and how it worked and operated in the generation before us that's mostly gone. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting that that's coming back because people are fatigued with looking at scruff. It's not enough anymore.
Yeah, it's like opening the app every day and just seeing the same faces. I went off for a couple years and then got back on. It's like I know all these people.
Yeah. Isn't that so upsetting when that happens? And I'm one of those people, but I'm just like, oh boy.
But you've been with your partner, Dan Pelosi, for 5 years now?
Yeah.
So you met at like 32, 33. He's a New York Times bestselling author, a chef, correct? Or a cook?
He identifies as a home cook.
Okay, a home cook. That's a best-selling New York Times author. How did you meet?
We met on Hinge. So there you go, the internet. It was kind of at the tail end of quarantining when we all had like one dose of the vaccine. And so I was like, maybe I could go on some socially distanced walks now because I was not having sex with guys during the pandemic. And some people were, and that's rad. They figured it out. I was too scared. So that was like new. And I think, it's all the right time, the right place. And I wasn't ready for a relationship like I have now until I was ready. And I went through a lot of heartbreaking, tumultuous situations throughout my 20s and early 30s that I thought I was like fucked up and didn't know how to do it. But it was just like I was getting practiced. So when I met Dan, it was just like we both were ready for something like this. He had done a fair amount of work on himself in therapy and beyond. And I think we both knew what we wanted. Also, there's something about, the quarantine really stripped away any facades for all of us about like how this whole thing works and how precious this life is. So I think, all of our friendships, family relationships, everything, when you were coming out of the quarantine where you were just like, so what's up? Like, let's real talk. Like, we don't need to bullshit because this has been crazy. So I think that added an honesty and a sort of openness to our dating, and our early dates were like walking around Prospect Park in New York, socially distanced, no kissing, not the usual things I would have done maybe in those early datings. So I think that also helped set it on this specific course that it's on now.
Yeah, and also just growth and maturity, and I think being open to maybe slowing down a bit. So how would you describe your 20s and early 30s? Was it serial dating and not really wanting to get into anything too serious? Had you been in love before?
I mean, I would have called it love for sure. I was like you, I wanted a relationship so bad. I loved the falling in love and like sort of like building a home, like jumping into it way too fast. I would describe it as I would sniff out, how would I say this? If I felt electricity with a guy, I grabbed onto that wire really tight and got electrocuted. And I thought electricity meant that's love because I didn't know at that point. And what I learned is like, if you feel the electricity, like that's exciting, but that's not going to be sustainable. Because my nervous system was like out of whack. I was like all fucked up. And it was like I was doing drugs on these guys, basically. But to me, it was so all encompassing and it felt so powerful that I was like, this is love. Like, we're supposed to be together. And these would be like older men who are like very clear about what they want. And they were like, oh, no, 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 you're not moving into my apartment. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I thought we were in love. And they're like, no. So I think I just needed to learn what true, like, being with people who are ready and wanting the same things as me. I was pursuing really hard men who did not. And there's some safety in that, right? Like, because if I go after someone who doesn't want the same things, like, I don't actually have to commit and be in a relationship that sustains. It's like, it's going to blow up at some point. And so subconsciously, I think I wasn't really ready for that.
Were these possibly toxic relationships or how you went about them, possibly venturing into love addiction? Were those things you were talking about with your therapist throughout, trying to figure out why it's not working?
Yeah, for sure. And I spent a good chunk after one of the last ones where it felt like I was in the same heap crying in some of those 12-step rooms, calling it exactly that, love addiction, and learning about some of that language because I was like, something is really off here. I keep doing the same thing over and over here. I wouldn't describe them as toxic. Like they were like perfectly fine. I let my whole everything else would fall away. Like I wouldn't be in contact with my friends, which was not a good sign. I would just like disappear because I was like, well, I'm falling in love. Like, you guys don't understand. And that just wasn't, I mean, it worked at the time and it felt amazing and it was fun and I was having amazing sex, but it wasn't sustainable.
Would you consider that a vice? Do you think that was your vice throughout your 20s? Did you have any other addictions possibly?
That's a good question. Maybe, yeah, because I'm not really a big drinker. I wasn't, like, doing drugs like crazy. I don't smoke cigarettes. I I guess?
Was it like the rush, and how long would these relationships last?
Like 3 months, maybe 6 months. I think part of it also is that in my 20s, I was also really desperate to be seen in a certain way with my work that wasn't happening as fast as I wanted it to, and so I think I was looking for validation and a sense of self to be reflected back from these older men who maybe had more security and had the things I wanted, and I needed them to, like, affirm me, whether that was just through sex, because I think I was still not established in, like, what I was doing. I was, like, assistant directing theater a lot, and, like, it just felt like there was itches that needed to be scratched, and that was one way to get them.
Now in a relationship, serious relationship for 5 years, and you're living together and you're in love.
Yeah,
What have you learned from being in a 5-year serious relationship that maybe surprised you?
so many things that it's a choice to be in the relationship. Every day is a choice to be in it, but long term, it's also a choice, and when you make a choice for a relationship, it means other choices fall away. And that's true of all things in life. And I think that can be really rattling, but there's also something really incredible about it because then you can just focus on the thing you chose. Your feelings about the person can shift, and it doesn't mean that something is over either. Which I always operated on black and whites like, okay, if I have an instinct that this is wrong, then the whole thing's over. And I've learned how to sit with discomfort with him about my own feelings or something he's doing or uncertainty and just sustain. Um, I think he's taught me a ton about jealousy and what that feeling of jealousy is because I was very scared of like open relationships before and I feel jealousy like in a big way in my belly and I'm very afraid of it. And now after a lot of time together where we built a lot of trust with each other, we opened our relationship up and it taught me so much about, what we're capable of, that we're like these human beings who are attracted to so many different things. And for us, what was exciting about it was that it sort of relaxed the fear around that. That it's like, yeah, that's perfectly natural. And you can go explore it and still come home to me. And it doesn't have to signify anything huge about us because what we're building is very different than you going and having a fun night with someone. And I would have never dreamed that I could be capable of that because of my experience of jealousy in the past. And now I understand jealousy is just the beginning of a cooler emotional ride where I actually feel more connected with my partner toward the end of it.
Yeah, that's a steep learning experience. It takes time. I've been there as well in my previous marriage and current relationship, the monogamy section, and then having that conversation about opening up and the trust. And it really is all about communication, but you're gonna learn along the way too. There's no like no, you're gonna have some missteps, and it's really about coming back to each other and communication. So I'm glad you're there. It's a big experience. And I think there's a lot of you mentioned like the gray area. A lot of people see things black and white, open, close, monogamous, non-monogamous, and there can be a lot of gray there. It's really just about making sure you're on the same page. Did you go to therapy together? Did you read any books?
He's not a big, like, I'm gonna pour over books. I love, like, a self-help book, so I don't know if I actually read any literature specifically about that. I think I was reading All Fours at the time that this was maybe starting, the Miranda July book, so, like, it's always been in the water. I've read a lot of, like, gay and queer fiction that's expansive about what a relationship is, so, like, I was aware of it, and I have plenty of friends who have had open relationships, and I asked a million questions. But therapy, we weren't in it together at the time, but I was in my own therapy. And so that was critical for me. So I could just like talk through every feeling I was having, share some of it with Dan, not share the things that weren't useful for him. But it was really helpful because it was scary. I just thought it meant something different. And now I've learned it doesn't mean that same thing. Feel like I'm speaking vaguely, but yeah, you can surmise what I mean.
Yeah, and we'll move back to career because you mentioned your 20s not really being in the place that you desired to be, and you're a comedian, you do acting as well, but you studied directing. That was your main focus. Was that your initial like goal? I want to be a director?
No, I went to school as an actor to drama school. So I auditioned for all the drama schools, Juilliard, North Carolina School of the Arts. And I went to school in North Carolina to be an actor. And then my dean, talk about the mentors in my life, another gay man, much older. I wasn't attracted to him, but he was the one who moved me and encouraged me to be a director because he saw something in me. And he was right. But I was very resistant at the time and did not like it because I did not have any conception of what a career as a director looked like. So I directed for a long time and I still do, and I really love it. And I also know that I really need to perform, and I've always loved performing. And so I've come back to that only in the last 5 or so years, like basically since I started dating Dan. And it's felt so relieving. Like it just feels like I'm being used up in all the ways that I was intended to be used. Like I want to be of service, maximum service, and doing comedy, doing stand up, and doing the show I'm doing this summer, directing plays, acting in scripted stuff. All of it nourishes me and writing nourishes me. Like I need to do all these things. And I think I came up in an age, and I think others my age probably did too, where it's like they kind of said to you, you have to pick one or people don't know what to do with you. Like you need to be an actor, you need to be a director. And now because of the internet and the way things have changed, they're like, actually, we love it when you do everything. And so I think it was a confluence of the times changing, but also me permitting myself to do everything. And now I feel a sort of sense of ease, even though it's made it far more complicated because I'm doing many different things, but I need to do all of them to feel regulated.
Yeah, and it seems what most people probably know you as right now is a comedian because you've blown up on social media. But you just mentioned it's just been in the last 5 years. So do you think the last 5 years has been you honing your comedic voice, or do you think it was pretty well established by the time you started posting a lot more online?
It's a good question. I don't know. It's probably both. I think I had because of directing for so long, I really had a keen eye for what kind of comedy worked for me and like what I was drawn to. Like a really dry sense of humor. I grew up watching like religiously inhaling the Christopher Guest films. So like that was in my blood. So I think there was a part of it where it was just like I'd steeped myself in so much comedy that I knew and it was in my bones. So there was something already there. And then definitely by doing it, I've sharpened that voice and that point of view and like what is interesting to me. And that's why, for all the horrible parts of being on Instagram and having that be a big part of my business is one of the great things about it is the liberation of like having this easy, free thing that I get to turn on and do and explore and let it be this. I kind of describe my Instagram as like a giant sketchbook of all my ideas. And as a result, I meet more people who are like, oh, I like that idea. Let's talk about it. And I didn't have that before. You had to like, as a director, you had to I would raise, $50,000 to put on a play in New York City in a basement in Manhattan and like pray that someone would come and see it. But like people were like, oh, sorry, I'm out of town that weekend. And you're like, cool, just raised 50 grand. But with Instagram, I can make that video for free and people in South Africa can watch it.
Pretty cool. And you mentioned Christopher Guest. Who else were your comedic North Stars?
Oh my God. Robin Williams was huge. So Robin Williams lived in Tiburon, which was 2 towns up from where I grew up in Mill Valley. And he would drop in to this local theater that my best friend's mom owned in Mill Valley and work material at this theater, Tuesday night comedy. And he wouldn't like tell people he was coming. He would just show up. So I had the great fortune of watching him in Mrs. Doubtfire, The Birdcage, 1 Hour Photo, Good Will Hunting. Like these were like seminal movies. And I was watching a comedian also turn acting jobs. Like was an amazing actor too. So he was a huge influence when I was young. Christopher Guest and Parker Posey, like forever. What were the other? Oh, Jackass was it's really embarrassing, but I don't know why it's embarrassing. It's not. I love it. I used to watch Jackass. And before Jackass, there was these videos called CKY, which was a metal band, and they used to make kind of like punk videos where they were pranking people, and I loved that. Sacha Baron Cohen, that was huge for me. I always was drawn to people who were like fucking with reality, which is probably why I was class clowning too in school. Like they were looking at systems and being like, I don't know about that. And I was really drawn to that. And so now, like contemporary versions like Nathan Fielder, Joe Pera, those are comedians that when I watch, I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it.
It's awesome. Yeah, a lot of men actually. A lot of times I get
Ew, I
female
know,
comedians, but
sorry.
no, it's great. It's a rarity. I always ask because she comes up all the time on my podcast. Were you a fan of The Comeback or Lisa Kudrow?
Obsessed. That's
Okay.
so Dan and I's Hinge profiles. I had one section of it that said, you should talk to me. It was like the prompt was like, message me if, and mine said, if you think The Comeback is one of the greatest pieces of art ever made. And then Dan had one that was very similar about The Comeback, and that's how we started talking. Oh, yes.
Brilliant. I knew I liked you. Best show of all time. Yes.
Show of all time, Lisa Kudrow is one of the greatest comedians of all time. Also, Laura Dern in Enlightened. I have to thank John Early for exposing me to both of those shows when I first moved to New York. And they are huge. I mean, they're incredible because they tell the truth. That's the thing that makes it so funny and why I love them is they are willing to like really do it and make themselves look miserable or silly.
They're incredible. I love John Early too. I've seen him live several times. I love his special with Kate Berlant that he did on Peacock a few years ago. I wish they would do like an annual one. They're just, and I know he has a new movie coming out, but he's just incredible. I love him.
John and Kate are huge influences. Cole Skull is a huge influence on me. I mean, I was like inhaling their YouTube videos when I was coming out of college. Yeah, there's so many.
You listed a bunch.
Oh my God, Friday, like all the Friday movies, Chris Rock was huge for me. Dave Chappelle, I really liked. I know people don't agree with that, but his early specials really carried weight.
Well, let's talk about your new special, your new hour. Is this the new me?
Yeah.
Is this your first big tour?
Yeah, it's my first time going on the road.
How long have you been working on finalizing this hour and getting ready for the road?
Uh, I'd say it like really started last September. I did a show in my hometown at that storied theater I was telling you about with Nick Kroll, and he was sort of my comedy doula and pushed me to start writing a set. And I did. Also, Kroll show in Portlandia. Sorry, big influences when I was young. Um,
Well, let me bring one other woman up. Are you a Laurie Metcalf fan?
oh my
Okay,
God.
good.
Laurie Metcalf and Getting On. Are you
Yes,
kidding?
the best show of all time other than The Comeback. It's like those two awkward dark comedy female-led,
You
the
get
best.
it.
I had Alex Borstein on this show, and I just could not stop raving about The Comeback.
She's
Sorry,
amazing.
getting on. But I have had Dan Bukatinsky on, and I raved about the comeback.
I love Dan. He's amazing. I Niecy Nash and Alex Bornstein trying to speak Mandarin through the telephone on Getting On is one of the funniest things that's ever been written. So amazing. But Laurie Metcalf is amazing. She was on an episode of Horace and Pete where she just has like a 30-minute monologue with a glass of water in front of her. Wow, yeah, you're jogging all my memory. Those are great, great performers.
We like the same people.
We really do. What were we talking about? Oh,
You're
my
talking
show.
about you've been working on
Yeah.
this show for since September, and is it mainly drawing from personal experience, relationships, past trauma, making comedy? How do you describe the show?
It's a show about control, and it's about all the ways that I try and control the way people perceive me, which feels very gay. So it's like it kind of dabbles in a lot of different arenas, both personal, but also things that I'm seeing in the world that are versions of people trying to control. And I think control is just so funny. I mean, that's part of what the comeback is all about too, is like Lisa Kudrow trying to control the narrative around her. So yeah, I would say I would describe the show as like it's about control, and the title "Is This the New Me" is like about all the ways that I'm constantly trying to reinvent myself. That I'm like, I get a new pair of Carhartts and I'm like, oh, so I think I'm like a farmer actually. Like I think my look is kind of like dusty older dude. And then like the next day I'll like, put on gym shorts and I'm like, no, I'm like fitness. Like that's my thing. Or like I'm doing a red light mask now. Like I'm skincare. Like it's all these like attempts at trying to establish a new me or feel a sense of like wholeness and contentment. I mean, I've always kind of teased that in myself. And you see it all over my bits that I do on Instagram. But this show is like true stand up. Like I'm really tasking myself and challenging myself to like do stand up comedy and not go on stage and be like, here's my impression of blank. Like you're not going to see Instagram videos on stage. You'll see like remnants of ideas because that's still me, but it's like truly just me with a microphone.
It's interesting. Okay, so it's not your characters.
No, no, no. Like, I mean, unless something changes in the next couple weeks, which it could, because I'm the author. It's not. Yeah, it's no characters. There's no like big costume changes or anything like that.
Now, I do want to talk on some of your characters, even though they're not in a show, because I want to get some of the inspiration behind them. And if you want to dip in the voice, that's fine, but no pressure. The one that you're probably most known for, the one that I see the most, that I think caught my eye and made me follow you, was the Long Island mom going through something, processing something. When did you finally move to New York? And is that from living there a long time?
It's partly from living there. I moved there in 2016, but it's actually not really. So that bit, she is me, I am her, she lives in me. But that Long Island component of it is very foreign to me because I didn't grow up there, obviously. And now I have the reviews and the receipts, as they say, to show that Long Island folks write to me all the time and they're like, this is crazy how accurate this is. Because I was expecting like people to be like, your accent's wrong, like fuck off, which is totally fine and fair. But that actually started as a bit between my brother and I. I'm not like a Bravo gay. I don't know about Real Housewives very much. I wish I did, but like it's too overwhelming at this point and it's never really kept my interest. But I did watch Real Housewives of New York, I believe, once with my brother when we were at home visiting our parents. And we both have this sort of like vocal stim, it might be spectrumy behavior where like we fixate on a phrase or a way of saying something and we will regurgitate it and say it over and over and over again, which is where some of my stuff comes from. But anyway, we watched this episode and it was this scene where all the Long Island moms were greeting each other at brunch. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's Beethoven. That's classical music being written. Like, that is so beautiful because it was like, hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Hi, how are you? Just hi, how are you? Over and over. And that stuck with us. So every time my brother and I would get on the phone with each other, the first like 2 to 3 minutes of the conversation was literally doing that back and forth and just like topping each other. And so that's always been funny to me. And then one day I just kind of like kept going and fleshed her out and like explored her world. And like I said, she is me. So like she's moving through something personal. Honey, I'm always moving through something. So like I just let that kind of be her story too.
Very appealing. I think a lot of people probably relate. And she's also a bit comforting. Like She's going through stuff, but she's welcoming to everyone, and she's kind of like I would want to be friends with her. Now, does the single Jewish dad live within you?
Harold. Harold, yeah, yeah. So Harold, he sounds like this, which, is a very familiar kind of a speech pattern for me. And that comes from my family. Yeah, Harold is like, I mean, that's way more in my lineage. I'm Jewish, and like that Harold is like, shout out to all my older Jewish uncles, cousins. I grew up with that man. And he's a softie. He's very sensitive and he's very expansive in his thinking. He has a queer daughter who lives in Ridgewood. And so he's very curious, but he's also like, he's kind of a hornball. Like he finds everyone attractive and like not in a like gross, like predatory way, but like he will let you know if he thinks you're beautiful, which just feels like kind of Jewish too, like an emotional quality of Judaism for me. So that's where he came, and that was separate. And then somehow their worlds collided, and now we have this episodic series that has been born where they are courting each other, and it's like a soapy rom com that's like very erotic, and I'm playing both parts.
I love it. My partner is Jewish. We've been together about 2 years now, and so I'm learning a lot about the culture. And yeah, it's very appealing. Do you have firsthand experience being the server who needs to make a big speech about the menu?
Honey, no shade to the restaurant, but like that uniform I'm wearing in those videos is from my last restaurant job. I'd put in, I think, 14 years waiting tables. So yeah, it's fresh and it's very lived. And some of those speeches, those exact phrases I was using. Like that's the thing. So like with my comedy is it's very important to me that I don't punch down in my comedy. I'm not interested in making fun of people. I'm interested in roasting myself. Like I try and locate the most embarrassing shit that is true of me and I put it in front of me and I try to be as specific as possible. So when people comment or respond to my work and they say, I feel attacked or like, oh my God, this is me, I feel a sense of community because I'm like, oh, cool, we're not alone in that silly thing that we do where we like pretend to read, but we're actually looking at our phone most of the time and then taking pictures of the book to share on Instagram. I'm not the only person doing that. Great. Okay, cool. And so I think there's something about like relieving shame for me that comedy does. And so my job as the comedian is to find those things in myself. So why I say that is because that gay server, like the shape shifting server and like pleasing all the women, like that's what I was doing. And I was watching myself be like, wow, you're hustling for tips by like pretending to know what drag race is for these gay guys or like pretending to like be a girl who like drinks mimosas, even though I had never had one. Like, yeah, and I was like, that's fascinating. And that, again, talk about my show. It's like controlling how I'm perceived. Shapeshifting was a huge part of that. So, yeah, the gay stuff, the server specifically is very live.
I was laughing because you're talking about humanizing, stuff that can be embarrassing and bringing light to it. And it made me think of one of your recent posts about having to go to the bathroom when you're on a walk.
Yeah, literally.
We all have experienced that.
Yeah. And like I love that. Like I love like looking at all the like goofy things that we do. Like that's fucking it's beautiful.
Do you still change your voice if you're ordering something?
What's up? Um yeah, yeah, I guess no, I'm not really. Yeah. It depends. I definitely still watch myself code switch in some environments and I'm like, interesting. What's so scary about this guy that you feel like you have to like I still catch myself like because I watch sports and I like sports like earnestly, like not like I'm pretending, but I do notice there are certain situations where I'm like, how those Knicks doing? And I'm like, whoa, okay, we're not that serious.
You're very aware, though. I also like that you talked about how millennials are all reacting to Lena Dunham's Famesick. Did you actually read it? I loved it.
I love that book. I was in the throes of I inhaled that book like candy. I don't know if you had this experience being the age because you are and the age I am. I think part of why I loved reading that book was we haven't been old enough yet to be able to reflect on a time period with an author and with an artist. So like I of course have read like lots of Joan Didion and like fantasize about like what, 70s and 80s Los Angeles looked like. And like I can live through her lens, but I didn't live through that time. So to be able to have watched all of Girls while it was being released, not like girls rewatch because I'm a kid, like later, like watched it while it was happening and lived through that, and then be able to reflect on that time period with the person who made it was like, I was like, this is incredible. Because I was remembering where I was when I saw that and like remembering like, oh, so Adam was in a play at the same time that she shot that Shaw episode where he's like doing a Shaw play on the show. And I just found that part kind of, then that's not directly about Lena's work, but like the experience was really powerful for me. And then just her honesty around fame addiction and like huffing success and continuing to go even when your body can't keep up. Like, thank God someone's talking about that and naming it. I just think she's like, yeah, we're very lucky in it. I'm so fascinated when my friends, specifically gay men, are like, "Ugh, I find her revolting," and I'm like, "Interesting, let's look at that," because usually it's like something in themselves that they don't want to look at that she's exposing, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure it's hard to watch someone do something really successful and change and grow in front of you. That's uncomfortable. So yeah, I just loved it. I mean, I just like I didn't want it to end. I loved it so much. So I made that video in the throes of it and then was really fixated on the idea of like not being able to articulate at all. Like,
I agree. It's such a brilliant book. I think she got so much shit back in the day, and people are, I think, finally coming around to it. But she's resilient, and yeah, I think brilliant, brilliant. And she kind of is a voice of a generation.
absolutely is.
Well, as we close out, I always ask every guest this show, The Tangle, what are you currently tangled in that you're loving, immersing yourself in, binge watching, any activity? And then what is something frustrating that you're working to get untangled from that's annoying right now?
I love that.
Do you and your guy have any shows that you make sure to watch together? Binge watch?
Yeah, that felt like I was like, because of I'm like, it has to be loftier than that, but I'll start there. Where I am so tangled up in Widow's Bay, I think it's a brilliant show because it's somehow striking a tone of being so scary. Like I'm very sensitive to horror. It's really scary to me. And it's so funny. We just watched this episode that Betty Gilpin stars in, and she just gives one of the most incredible performances, but it was also directed by Ty West. And the way the show is directed is just it's astonishing and refreshing because I've been very kind of like sedated when I watch TV lately. I'm just like, sure. And like on, 5 other screens shopping while I'm like, this isn't doing anything. But this show, I'm like watching. So I'd say I'm tangled up in that.
She also has a brilliant memoir, Betty Gilpin. I love her so much. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know she had a memoir. I want to read it.
Yeah, I actually have it right here. I did a podcast about it a couple years ago. It's called All the Women in My Brain. I really recommend it. She's a great
Yes.
writer, and great actress. I saw her do Oh Mary. She's incredible.
As we were watching last night, I was like, God, I hate that I missed her do Mary. I saw Jinx do it and it was astonishing, other than Cole, obviously. Yeah, okay, I'll read that. Thank you. Yeah, I guess that's a tangled. And what am I frustrated with that I want to get untangled?
Could be anything. It can be, I mean, you just mentioned that you're glued to your phone.
Yeah, that's the first thing to come. I mean, I think healing that relationship always is kind of top of mind. Like, I'm like, when is this over? Like, when are we going to just stop and go back? And maybe that's my own personal call that I need to do it. It's really hard though, because it's given me so much and it continues to be such a powerful thing. But I just know spiritually it does not sit well with me and it does not sit well with what's happening structurally with the government. Like, I just see the way that the phone has become a tool for them to like do the things that they want to do to us without us having any reaction, myself primarily. So I'd say, yeah, I'm pretty much always pretty tangled in that and like being like, okay, today we're meditating and I'm just not going to look at it. We're just going to go real quiet.
Well, you'll soon be tangled in your tour. I'm really looking forward to it. Are you taking your partner on the road? Do you have a big crew?
I don't. It's kind of solo. Like I need to be alone a lot. But I don't think he's coming to all of it. He's probably coming to Boston because he has family going to that one. But I think DC, you're in DC and I'm coming there. I'll be solo there. I used to live there, so I have lots of friends that I'll see
Oh,
too.
okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
plan to go to the show. I didn't know you used to live here. Where's your old haunt? Or how long ago were you here?
I left in 2016. So I was there during all the Obama years. And I was there in 2011 was when I moved there. I had a lot of haunts. Third and East Capitol was my first apartment. I used to work for the Shakespeare Theater Company downtown.
Yeah, okay.
I lived
Very cool.
in Chinatown for a beat, and then my last place was in Bloomingdale, what they call Bloomingdale. like right next to Howard. It was an amazing
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Okay. Well, yeah, you'll have a lot of people in that audience. Exciting.
I hope. I'm happy you're coming. Thank you. I want to know what you're tangled with, though. Do we have time? Can you tell everyone what you're tangled with?
I'm always tangled in TV. I finished Widow's Bay. I also finished Margot's Got Money Troubles. I really liked that. Obviously, loved the last season of The Comeback and Hacks. I mean, I have dogs. I have 3 dogs. I have a foster dog, so I'm always tangled with dogs. I'm going to London next month for
Uh,
the first time, so that's a big thing.
that's so
Looking forward
cool.
to that. Yeah, and I need to make it to New York because there's so many shows I want to see. I want to see Death of a Salesman with Laurie Metcalf, and I really want to see Oh Mary with Meg Stalter later this summer. And then I really wanna see Rosie O'Donnell just announced a residency in New York City this summer, so I'm gonna go see her. I love her, yeah. But I think we have a lot of the same interests.
Yes, we do. Your taste, I can't believe you brought up Laurie Metcalf and Getting On because that's
She is just the
really
best, yeah,
specific. And yeah, we have the
yeah.
same Rolodex. Yeah.
Well, this has been such a pleasure. I really appreciate you taking an hour of your day. I'm a new fan, and I really enjoyed getting to know you.
I'm so flattered you asked me, and I feel like I'm like such a listener. I do what you do usually. Like I love to ask questions and listen. So this felt crazy to talk as much as I did today. So
Aw. No, I love hearing it. I listened to your episode a few months ago with, Naomi Ekperigin, who I love, who's been on this show and got to know
love
you there.
now.
But yeah, you're great. You're just fantastic. I love just your whole approach and outlook, and you're kind of peaceful, kind of like the Long Island mom.
She is me. I am her, honey. Thank you. I appreciate that, Cal. That's very sweet. It was so nice to get to talk to you and meet you for the first time and have it be recorded.
Thank you, Gus. Make sure to follow him on Instagram, TikTok. Check out his new tour, Is This the New Me? He's heading all along the East Coast. Again, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Boston, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Brooklyn. He'll probably add more dates along the way. He's a fantastic comedian, and I can't wait to see what he does next. And as we close out, we have Tangled in Song. What song am I tangled in? I don't know what I'm going to be tangled in since I'm pre-recording this a minute in advance, but since it's going to be my last day in London, I am going to plan on playing So Long London by Taylor Swift. A gorgeous song. We all know it. We all love it, don't we? It's a breakup song, but I think it's just a beautiful, haunting song of loss, a song of reminiscing, a song of letting go and moving forward. It's a beautiful one. And the way the song starts with those haunting vocals sounding like church bells. So long, London. I always like to read lyrics, but I feel like I could read every single line of this song and it just hits you hard. I mean, I saw in my mind fairy lights through the mist. I kept calm and carried the weight of the rift, pulled him in tighter each time he was drifting away. I stopped CPR. After all, it's no use. The spirit was gone. We would never come to, and I'm pissed off you let me give you all that youth for free. So long, London, stitches undone, 2 graves, 1 gun, I'll find someone. I swore that you loved me, but where were the clues? I died on the altar waiting for the proof. You sacrificed us to the gods of your bluest days, and I'm just getting color back into my face, and I'm just mad as hell because I love this place. Jesus, beautiful song, haunting song. I'm going to play it as I'm flying home. Tortured Poets Department. I'm going to call it. At this time, Tortured Poets Department is my favorite Taylor Swift album. Give it a listen. All right, my friends, I will be back next week. Love you all. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for our guest for next week. You can keep an eye out on my Instagram, Kyle Ridley with an _. Like, rate, and subscribe to this podcast if you would. I really appreciate it. I will see and speak with you soon. Until then, you take care of yourselves.